XRP ETF Manipulation is the title of tonight's live show, as we're going to be breaking down, despite the fact that the market's coming back down right now, we're just not worried in the slightest. We're taking advantage of this opportunity to accumulate. I'm adding to my XRP long, also looking at other fundamental utility crypto positions that we continue to stack and accumulate to take advantage of this opportunity before the suits are going to be selling it with slideshow presentations. They have champagne on ice, determining whose yacht they're going to be throwing the ETF launch party on, what type of champagne are we going to be sipping, and who should we bring in, who should we fly in to be the DJ for this party. Now, I want the regular person, Main Street America, and across the world, as a matter of fact, we have an audience tuning in from around the world who wants to take advantage of this opportunity and join the party, right? Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that Wall Street's been partying and having a good time. It's time for Main Street. And this is the opportunity that we've been talking about for the past 4 years. What's another month or so of manipulation? And boy, oh boy, is it wearing people thin, the frustration, the anger that I see in the comments, the fear that I see in the comments, because I read all of your guys' comments on YouTube, on X. We're tapped in every single day, getting a vibe check from the community. And when I see this level of fear, when I see the fear and greed index at the extreme fear levels, pro tip, that's when we buy. That's when we buy a lot. When the open interest, because everybody's scared to go long again, which rightfully so, we get a little ahead of ourselves with 100 and 500x leverage in the cryptocurrency space. And so, yeah, we do have to get wiped out and cleaned up from time to time. We do it to ourselves. It's a self-inflicted wound. And we've been calling for this space to get cleaned up for quite some time, whether it be the number one stablecoin by market cap, Tether, not showing us what they're actually backing their reserves with, whether it be the centralized exchanges playing games with us. And now we're talking once again about this regional bank crisis and the private credit concerns that are hitting this market once again. And the hot term that's being thrown around right now is the debasement trade, right? And the key signal is gold rising to $4,300 per ounce for the first time in its history, officially becoming the first asset with a market cap of 30 trillion. Now, if you would have told people decades ago, even just a few years ago, maybe that XRP might be heading that way too, but gold was going to be at a $30 trillion market cap, people would have laughed you out of the room. Now the debasement trade is the focus of not just Wall Street, but the average American who's seen their savings are worth nothing, dwindling away, keeping up with inflation that they told us was transitory. That was one of the biggest lies that we've ever received from the Federal Reserve. And to make matters worse, while we're already bleeding out in the streets, the Fed decides to raise rates at the fastest pace in history to kick us while we're down. What's Jamie Dimon saying in the quote that's going and circulating around Wall Street right now? Jamie Dimon says cockroaches don't come in one or two. And he was referring to the banking situation, the regional banks, small banks, and the private credit contagion, right, that is spreading right now. Rumor has it that there is a financial crisis brewing in shadow banking and private equity. And boy, oh boy, is there. Now, we're very excited to step into private equity, but I've been warning folks as we step into crypto that 99% of crypto is going away, just like Brad Garlinghouse told us. As we look at private equity, we know that the valuations are astronomical and not based on fundamentals. It's one of the environments here, though, that we've really never been in where you know it's overvalued, you know it's a flight to safety, you know people are worried about debasement. And if you are completely on the sidelines, you get left behind. You can't sit 100% on the sidelines and not have exposure, right? Some people have, seen BC Backer went to 50% cash, right? Sold off 50% of his crypto. To that point, I said he probably had some bags of crap like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and BNB, which have all been far outperformed by XRP, right? XRP has far outperformed every single one of those cryptocurrencies. And so if I held bags of some of those laggers, I would be dumping that too. I mean, that's the reason why I don't have or own Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and BNB, along with other large caps, which are just so far behind XRP. So I'd be dumping that crap too. But the other thing that we've been warning about is not being over leveraged, staying liquid, focusing on income because inflation's not going away. The debasement trade, we were on the debasement trade, goodness gracious, well before it was popular. In fact, we were buying these assets, XRP, gold, silver, when they were hated. And there's a quote from our good friend Rick Rule, who I've had on the show and got to meet a couple times up in Vancouver. He loves investing in what's hated. I'm paraphrasing, but he loves the hate, is what he says. And that was gold. That was silver. That was the commodities and that sector. That was cryptocurrencies like XRP, right? Why are these assets so hated by the masses? Well, it went from they were telling fables and stories and lies about XRP. That's why I created my platform 4.5, almost 5 years ago, was to provide the truth about XRP on TikTok. Then we expanded to YouTube and X. But we knew we had to move into this crypto space and get exposure somewhere. But like Brad Garlinghouse said, we knew 99% was going to go away. We are excited to move into private equity, but we know that there is a lot of fluff. There's a little extra fat on this hog, we could say, right? And the famous quote is, when the tide goes out, you get to see who's swimming naked. It's ugly. It's one of those where we're not only seeing who's swimming naked, it's a sight that you don't want to see, okay? Because it's very bad, very bad. And we've been warning about this since the regional banking crisis in 2023. We said it wasn't fixed, just like the inflation that was supposed to be transitory. The banking crisis that popped in 2023, we said was not solved. And just like we've been talking about, the global margin call is not over. From the crypto bros getting liquidated to the tune of 19 billion, probably is a factor of 3 or 4 times worse than what was reported. But this was the largest liquidation by a factor of 10 as it was reported. But the issue here is that we still haven't cleaned up the crypto space all the way. This regional banking crisis, right, was not solved in 2023. And so whether it be the crypto bro getting margin called, or whether it be private credit, banks that were giving out loans to Joe Blow Schmo pulls up on the street with nothing else besides, a pulse. It reminds us of the ninja loans and the type of activity that was taking place that led to the mortgage crisis in 2007 and 8, right? The great financial crisis. Instead of it just being real estate, we've been warning that it expanded to private equity, private credit, cryptocurrency, NFTs, fuzzy wuzzy penguins, all of it. And now the global margin call is here, and we get to see who's swimming naked. Kobesi letter with a nice breakdown right here. Here's the real issue for anybody confused. In March of 2023, regional bank stocks collapsed. The crisis was contained, so they said, but nothing really changed. Banks who took outsized risk with either backstopped, they were either backstopped by the U.S. government or they were acquired by JP Morgan. Now, I talked about this in 2023 about how Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan, and the banksters, they were loving this. All the small guys collapsing, and they get to show up and eat everybody up. What do you have on your balance sheet that's worth buying? They get to buy it for pennies on the dollar equivalent. And so Jamie Dimon just making comments here today or yesterday, I think, that the cockroaches don't come in 1 or 2, meaning that we have a few more that are going to drop. Now, the talk right now is that this is not systemic, but we'll have to see, right? This is the whole problem with the shadow banking and the whole problem with our derivatives and how far they've expanded. Banks who took outside risk with either backstop by the U.S. government or acquired by JP Morgan. As a result, this further incentivized taking on outsized risk, particularly as deposits over the 250,000 FDIC limit are now inherently insured. Remember when Janet No-Tellin Yellen said, basically she responded to a senator who asked her directly, "Are you going to let my little credit union in Oklahoma fail?" And she said, "Well, if they're not systemically important, well, yes, sir, we will." I am paraphrasing, but that is exactly the message that she delivered. If you're a small regional bank that isn't going to cause a systemic issue, you will be sacrificed. Now, That is, investors in regional bank companies know that the U.S. government will backstop deposits in the case of a collapse. Today, shares of Zion's Bancorp crashed by 13% after it disclosed a $50 million charge-off for a loan underwritten by its subsidiary. And Western Alliance Bank stock fell by about 12% after it said it's dealing with a borrower that failed to provide collateral loans in first position. Regardless, the March 2023 precedent is that regional banks will be effectively bailed out even if a collapse is a result of bad management. Sum this all up, and when regional bank stocks fall, the entire market follows because confidence was never restored in the regional bank system. The regional bank crisis was simply swept under the rug. We noted that in 2023. We said in August of 2024, when the Japan carry trade started to unwind, the Fed showed up with a backstop of $50 billion for treasuries, and they put another Band-Aid on the patient. But the patient will end up being a fatality. And the patient in this case is not just the small regional banks. It does go much deeper. But it's just like the situation we find ourselves in with the manipulation here on the ETFs. We're going to have ETFs go live here in October. Government shuts down. We're going to have banks collapse. But how far will it spread? Well, we don't know how much they're going to bail out the banks. We don't know what kind of backstop's going to be next. Remember, in 2023, it was the BTFD, Bank Term Funding Program, or BTFP. Short-term backstop. And it ended up lasting longer than they said it would. And eventually they did pull it. I think that was earlier this year, maybe at the end of 2024. The Bank Term Funding Program ended. So at this point, what do? Right? You guys just want to get to the hopium, don't you? You just want to get to when does the number go up? But the reason why we break this down is so that you can ride out days like today knowing why you're still in gold, silver, cryptocurrencies like XRP with real utility. There's a few others with real utility, solving real problems for institutions. Because when the price goes down, you're either in one of two camps. You're in the camp right now that's crying, has a lot of fear. Oh, BC backer scared me. Oh, another YouTuber made some XRP FUD. I'm scared. Or you're backing up the truck with fundamental conviction and understanding that the cracks widening in the system isn't a reason to sell the assets that solve the problem, the debt, currency, and liquidity crisis. For heaven's sake, why would you be selling the solution that the suits are getting ready to sell as well? Folks, Charles Schwab, this is the point I've been making lately. Gosh, don't let the suits go sip champagne on the yacht and have themselves a good time without us being able to enjoy it too. Front run the institutions. Do not wait. Charles Schwab plans spot crypto trading in the first half of 2026. Don't wait for Charles Schwab to tell you you can invest in crypto. Don't wait for Larry Fink to tell you that crypto is going to transcend traditional currencies. Don't wait for Jamie Dimon to say that now there's a spot for crypto in your portfolio. Don't wait for Vanguard to release only the first 10% of their overall plan. We got the inside scoop from Paul Barron when I was last on his show. Sounds like we're going to be going back on Paul Barron's show here soon too. That'll be a good one. Huge shout out to Paul. Really appreciate him for having me on. Great platform. Great platform. The whole point that we've been trying to get across to folks is have no fear. The suits are about to be selling this for us. I could probably close down my channel because I don't need to sell XRP or sell this idea anymore. The suits are going to be ringing you up. But by that time, how will we have gone, right? As far as even XRP just going $5 to $7 before the ETFs go live, which has been my prediction. Still is my prediction. The only thing that's blown up my timeline was the government shutdown this month. The reason why I titled this episode here tonight, XRP ETF Manipulation. Now, we were supposed to get all of these ETFs this month. We still will. It just might not be this month. October 18th for Grayscale, October 19th for 21 shares, 20th for Bitwise, 23 for Canary, Coinshare, on and on, all irrelevant. All irrelevant. That timeline's been blown up. Now, if you want to waste time, you could blame me and get mad at me. Zach, you suck. I don't like your timeline. I don't like your predictions. You know, you can smack the thumbs down and drop me a comment down below. Please feel free to vent out your frustration. But really, it's not my fault that the government shut down. And I'm just reminding you that this is an opportunity to load up before the inevitable takes place. The government will open back up to some form or fashion. Are we going to have less programs? Is President Trump going to fire a bunch of people? Is there going to be a bunch of politics and a DC dance? Is there going to be a little gathering this weekend? A little politics? A little Schumer? A little deal? Eventually a deal gets done. We will have an SEC. And the SEC has a stack that they're waiting to approve. And what this manipulation does is distract everybody from the fact that Ripple is still showing up at the White House. That's right, folks. Trump invites top donors to the White House gala. Crypto giant Ripple among the guests at the $250 million ballroom celebration. They're going to have ballroom celebrations, Ripple, with President Trump in this White House. Whether you like him or hate him or offended by him, whether you love him, worship him, or can't stand the man, the ballroom celebration is happening. The suits got the champagne on ice. Ripple is going to be bringing in everybody to celebrate at their swell conference November 4th and 5th in New York. And what today's price action does is distract you from all of that and the fact that Ripple is the only company in the crypto space. Ripple is the only company in the crypto space that is making acquisitions like the one that they made today. So instead of being distracted by price, understand the fundamentals, understand the adoption, understand the utility, and understand that we are talking $100 trillion addressable markets. Ripple is acquiring treasury management leader G Treasury. The fusion of Ripple's enterprise crypto solutions with G Treasury's 40 plus years of expertise immediately opens the multi-trillion-dollar corporate treasury market. Hidden Road for $1.25 billion wasn't the end. Rail, one of the leading enterprise stablecoin cross-border payment providers, wasn't enough either. The acquisition of Standard Custody, which enabled them to get that New York Department of Financial Service license and green light for the stablecoin RLUSD, wasn't enough either. Medico for a custody solution wasn't enough either, because I'm here to tell you that Ripple's still sitting on plenty of cash. Billions of XRP. And they are showing you, just look at the swell attendee list. They are showing you that they have partnered up with the largest banks and financial institutions in the world. While some folks are crying because XRP went down 5 cents, actually it went down a little bit more today, but it's recovered. Oh no, I'm scared. There is not an ounce of fear, uncertainty, or doubt in the offices of Ripple. There is not 1 ounce of fear, uncertainty, or doubt in Larry Fink's boardroom or any of the other countless institutions that are going to be showing up at Ripple's conference. And what Ripple just did with this acquisition was leapfrog Swift. I'm going to repeat. People don't get it because they're distracted by price. They threw in $500. They want to turn it into $5,000. They threw in 10 grand. They want to turn it into 100. Or maybe you're like some of us that has allocated significant portions of your net worth, and you're going to keep on adding to more to your position in XRP and these utilities because you see it, and you are not here for get rich quick. And funny enough, most of us already have turned 10 grand into 100 grand into a milli. Some of you guys, despite XRP being down from $3, still doing pretty well, huh? But this was not just, hey, let's play catch up. This was, let's leapfrog and have full integration into Swift as well. See, Ripple acquired a company connecting them to 13,000 banks in one go. G Treasury uses Swift to handle its messaging, but the thing is, what do they need Swift for now at all? Exactly. Good point by Yeshua Taylor here on X. Swift, I should remind you guys, is an institution that is partnered up and enables about 11,000 banks. So this is 2,000 more banks than Swift. But the other thing is that G Smart is actually fully integrated into Swift as well. I'm going to pull this up because I had shared this with my Discord group, and I want to share this with you guys. And then we're going to get into your guys' rapid fire comments and questions. But I saw somebody had posted this on X, and it was a Grok post. Please briefly itemize any history between Swift and the company G Treasury. This goes back to 2010. Remember, this company's been around for 40 years. These bolt-on acquisitions that Ripple has made just are additional pillars to the infrastructure that they've been building out. Right? They focused on cross-border payments first. Let's make XRP a world reserve digital currency that's as liquid as a G10 currency. That goes back almost a decade now. That's been successful. But now we add custody, now we add stable coins, and now we just acquire prime brokerage platforms, the largest prime brokerage platform in America outside of a bank. That was Hidden Road. But Ripple wasn't done. They just invested another $1 billion here to acquire G Treasury, 40-year-old company, which partnered with Axletree, which is a Swift regional partner and service bureau, to enhance Swift connectivity offering for corporates, enabling full Treasury workstation integration with straight-through payment processing via Swift networks. In May of 2014, G Treasury became the first North American company selected by Swift as an application service provider for Alliance Lite 2, integrating Swift's cloud-based messaging solution with G Treasury's Treasury Management Suite to simplify corporate Swift access and reduce IT barriers. Full integration. 2014 of October, G Treasury extends its Swift partnership by incorporating Swift ref data for IBAN and ABA lookups directly into its workflows, building on the Alliance Lite 2 integration and ongoing work with Swift. G Treasury maintains active Swift compatible features in its platform, including support for legacy MT messages and preparations for the full ISO 222 migration by November 2025, as highlighted in joint insights with Swift. This was a leapfrog. Swift at 11,000 member banks. This platform's connected with 13,000 banks. On top of that, Ripple already had hundreds and thousands of banks and institutions that they were working with. And now they've become and I said that they became a one-stop shop after they offered the custody solution as well, right? At that point, they acquired Medico and then Standard Custody, got the licenses, and we said, okay, they've become a one-stop shop. But then they added the stablecoin. That took it to another level because that's a whole nother vertical, a whole other pillar within this infrastructure that they've built out. They weren't done. That's the thing. So they acquire $1.25 billion for Hidden Road, a prime brokerage platform that settles over $3 trillion on a yearly basis. And then that wasn't enough. They acquired the stablecoin company Rail, which was one of the leading enterprise providers for cross-border payments in the world. But the story didn't end there. Today, and just like Brad Garlinghouse said yesterday, when he was on stage, we covered this yesterday in the show, he hinted at ongoing acquisitions and aggressive growth. So what do? Yesterday, I titled a video, XRP Aggressive Growth. What do the normal trolls and crybabies do? Because XRP wasn't going up, They cry in the comments. What growth are you talking about? This is growth going backwards. Calm down. Relax a little bit here. Not only 24 hours later, Brad Garlinghouse tells us what type of acquisition and what type of aggressive growth. Please compare this with the rest of the crypto space, which is pretending to have institutional adoption. And when they do come on stage, they don't have anything of significance to actually report on other than faked metrics and fake data manipulation that they've been doing with partners to make it look like they might have something cooking. They might talk about, oh, we got conversations going. We're doing a proof of concept. Remember the Swift proof of concept sandbox that everybody was worried about 2 weeks ago? Nobody's heard of it ever since, because it was just a little Swift marketing ploy to pump that up right before their Sibos conference. Please compare what Swift... Who the heck even went to the Sibos conference too, by the way? What a lame gathering, I can only imagine. Let's compare what Swift had to announce at their conference versus what Ripple's going to be announcing at Ripple Swell conference. Now, we already know that there's a party to be had at Ripple Swell just based off of what they've already done, let alone what they could be announcing at Ripple Swell. We already know right now there's enough for Ripple to put on a whole conference and just go point by point by point about what they've done and where we're going. But they're going to have some new stuff in store too. They do this every year on Ripple Swell. Now, compare that with Swift, which is, hey guys, if you want to come to our conference, come on in. They probably had to pay people to come. And what did they have to announce? A sandbox. Hey guys, big announcement over here at Swift. We built a little sandbox. We got some friends, 30 banks. Every bank that is going to be in our sandbox with us is partnered up with Ripple. And we're going to go play around in the sand a little bit. We got a little, I just took my son. We went over to a family property and we were playing in the sand. He loves it. He's got his trucks there. And so we were having a good time. I was letting him play here before I came back for the live show here tonight. And he's got his dump truck and he's playing in the sand. That's what Swift is doing. That is what Swift is doing, is they're playing with the kiddie toys and the Tonka trucks in the sandbox. And Ripple comes in with the entire dirt crew, bulldozers, excavators, they're moving earth. Swift, they got the little scooper, just like my son, a little scooper into the truck. It's nice. We got him a nice cement mixer truck too, so he can dump it in there. If I wanted to play around, I'd take my son to the sandbox. And that's where Swift is at. So far behind. And we compare that with what Ripple's achieving. Not what's hypothetical in the future. Not what we're speculating on. Not what we would like to see happen. Live today. Volume now. And a lot to grow. Activity on the ledger that we can verify today. Stable coins, right? Real world assets with institutional partners showing up on the XRP ledger. Not just Joe Blow Credit Union in Kansas. No offense to Joe Blow Credit Union in Kansas. I'm sure there's some, I bank with a credit union too. We need credit unions, right? But Ripple's bringing on BlackRock. Ripple's bringing on Citigroup. As we talked about yesterday, they go from Brad Garlinghouse getting debanked from Citi, debanked, kicked off their platform, to now Brad was joking on stage about how he didn't want to pick on Citi, how he actually liked their CEO, or he mentioned somebody. He said, I don't want to pick on Citi. And then he was speaking on an example of how the legacy system just makes all their money by adding all this friction, right? And these banks like Citi and HSBC, they are the banks that all of the small credit unions and others go through for cross-border payments, right? So the actual settling is taking place at these bigger banks. And so he says, he was joking around. He said, I don't want to pick on Citi. HSBC isn't here, so let's just use them as an example, right? But it just goes to show you how far we've come from being under attack by the SEC, from being debanked, literally Brad Garlinghouse being debanked, from, waiting for this case to end, waiting for our ETFs to arrive, and in perfect fashion, the frustration, I feel you 100%. It sucks to have the ETFs delayed until you take advantage of it as a tremendous buying opportunity. And none of the TA guys are talking about the inflows from the ETFs. It's like they live in an alternative reality where Ripple's still in a case. Ripple hasn't done all these other acquisitions. They haven't, added on all these verticals. We're not about to get ETFs. We're not about to get clarity and regulations for these institutions to come in and participate without having to worry. And you got TA guys just playing around with their little charts. Oh, this fractal from 2021. Oh no, guys. Look at what happened here. That's an alternative reality, my friend. That does not exist anymore. The case is over. ETFs are going live. 5 to 10 billion flows in the first 60 days, if not the first month. Do you understand what that does? You want to talk analytics? Let's do 2 + 2 still equals 4, doesn't it? 5 to 10 billion of inflows is taking you to a double-digit XRP price. And people ask me, how do you have so much conviction? Simple math. Full stop. No riddles. No conspiracy. Although we could talk riddles and conspiracy if you want to. The whole financial system is one big conspiracy. You probably should figure it out so that you can invest in how they have to fix it. i.e. the debasement trade that everybody's now figuring out. And what this price action does, what this manipulation does, and this is what makes me so sad, so frustrated, and why I come on here tonight with so much fire. I've gone through all of this without showing you the chart, because the chart is the distraction. If you have money to buy, take a look at the chart. Place an order. I told you guys where I have my order sitting at, and I think that you guys front ran me on Coinbase, by the way. Coinbase, it went down to 225 on the spot market, but on the futures market, it only went down to 328. My order is still sitting at 325. If you have money to buy, you place your order. You set it and forget it. You don't need to watch the chart, right? If you don't have money to buy, you don't need to watch the chart either, because you have a fundamental investment here. The day-to-day price action is not going to shake you out. But this price action distracts the masses who don't get that. Whether they were too lazy to research, whether they were distracted, whether I called out a TikToker the other day. Somebody had to. Somebody's got to call out these guys. I don't want to do it because the videos don't get views and then I get attacked. But somebody has to. So I stitched up a TikToker. This guy's sold all of his XRP for the 12th time in the last 30 days. I can't count how many times he said, starts off the video, I just sold all my XRP. Why? Same script, different crap coin is what I said. Because these guys just do it, rinse and repeat. It's a complete act of disrespect to their audience and community. But they're so desperate to flip their little bag and use you as exit liquidity that they just repeatedly lie. And clearly it's working. Hey guys, I'm back. I just sold all of my XRP so that I could go buy this crap coin on Solana that me and my pump group are ready to dump on you. Come on in. Hey guys, I just saw some TA. I sold all my XRP so that I could go buy this coin that doesn't actually have institutional adoption, but I'm going to pretend that it does. And I'm going to tell you that they got some stuff going on, even though I know deep down inside that they don't. And I picked up my bag and I activated my pump group. And these guys build out pump groups with hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people. And there's a reason why they target low cap gems under $200 million. I'm giving you the formula. They don't have real analysis. They don't have a real business. And so they use you as exit liquidity. And they use, this is the shameful part, they use XRP FUD to get exit liquidity out of you, to spread fear. They can't get people to watch their content, so they lead with XRP FUD. It's just on the other end of the spectrum, you have guys who don't have real analysis, so they lead with XRP hopium. Nothing but XRP hopium. And that's why you guys are tired. You guys are tired of that. I am too, which is why you hear me calling it out. I am not here to be liked. I am here to be effective by providing and having real analysis on whether the market's going up or down, not just talking about cryptocurrency, talking about other asset classes as well, tying in current events so we understand where the heck we're at and what to look out for. And we put this together for a wholesome strategy to provide you guys real analysis and a real update. And sometimes I wonder to myself, maybe I should just go back to hopium. You know, because sometimes it does, you know, it's unfortunate to see. You know, I saw somebody comment on my live show on Tuesday, and they said, and there was like, you know, quite a few people that actually liked the comment. And the comment was, they commented the next day and they said, what are you yapping about for an hour tonight? About? What are you yapping about for an hour? And to me, I just think, see, these are the people that are going to get completely left behind. These are the people that are going to capitulate and sell off too soon. And then they're going to FOMO in at the top, right? These are people with no real strategy, right? And they don't want to listen to 30 to 45 minutes of a real analysis. All they want to know is, which coin should I buy? Well, I just broke down what happens when you go to influencers to figure out and to have them tell you what coin to buy. Have I ever told anybody here to buy XRP? The answer is no. I've told you I'm buying XRP and why I'm buying XRP. I told you why I was buying Zebek. I told you why I was buying Stronghold, why we were buying these other cryptocurrencies, why we were buying silver, why we're going into private equity. And I understand the reason why we do what we do here is because you guys don't have all day to sit here at the computer and be in these markets and be reading and researching all day long like we do, right? This is my job. We take it very serious from the time my son wakes me up at 5 a.m. till I lay my head at night. Vacations, holidays. There is no time off in crypto. And I love every bit of it. I laugh at all the, you know, oh, markets are shut down today. Oh, it's a holiday. Oh, it's Columbus Day, unless you don't want to call it that day. You can call it something else. Whatever day you want it to be. And this is why I said, you have people that have no chance. They will be completely left behind during the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. They're too busy trying to be politically correct. They're too busy being distracted by whether it be Kardashians or crap coins, everything in between, right? I didn't even realize that the Mariners, for crying out loud, had made it to the playoffs till about a week ago. I'm watching the game 5 that they had with the Tigers. Game 5. And then, it went till like the 15th inning. It's a great game. I used to play baseball, so I like watching baseball. I don't watch sports anymore, but they win game 5 and they're going on to the AL Championship Series. And I'm like, since when did the division round become a 5-game series? Right? I forget, there was a couple other things that happened. I'm like, when did we change those rules? The replay's been around, right? I don't know anybody playing on the Mariners. It happens every year. People, oh, so-and-so's in the Super Bowl. Oh, I forgot the Super Bowl's coming up. And nothing against it, guys. I'm rooting for my Mariners, by the way. Now I'm revived as a Mariners fan. But I've been a Mariners fan forever. We gave up hope on them so long ago. It's like some folks with XRP. But see, I never sold, right? I never really was all out Mariners, but I love a good baseball game. We took my daughter to my baseball game actually last year. Made it till about the 6th inning. But I'm like, who's playing here? They got new rules. What's going on here? I had to buy a membership. I don't have TV at my house. So I had to buy the Fox subscription, another subscription, right? This is why we're bleeding out. You have to have 50 different subscriptions and memberships. So I bought the Fox and I haven't even watched the last 2 games because I live this every single day. And I have to be drug away from this by my wife. Not really. But the only thing I do other than this is hang out with my family. And it's because we wanted to squeeze this thing for as much as we could get out of it before the regulations go live. We have full clarity, institutional adoption, and ETFs flowing. So, like I said, you're in one of 2 camps. And I think we need to be doing less crying and more buying. Less crying, more buying. You guys let me know in the comments down below how you feel. Let's go rapid fire Q&A. If you guys haven't already, please make sure that you have liked this video. Helped us out by sharing it out far and wide. I'm going to plug my sponsor real quick, then we'll go rapid fire Q&A. Thank you real quick here. iTrust Capital has us tapped in here for your IRA, investing in crypto and precious metals. We're going to get you a $100 funding bonus when you use my promo code Rector9. Okay. And you're looking at the traditional Roth SEP IRA along with their premium custody account, institutional grade custody, award-winning US-based support, low cost, no monthly fees. One thing I was happy to hear feedback from the community is everybody was telling me that iTrust Capital was actually able to get orders through during the liquidation event of Friday. We love to hear that. Now, the other news that came out today, this is actually breaking news as of today. I'll show you real quick here. Coinbase Asset Management and iTrust partner on Bitcoin yield strategy for IRAs. This just came out here today. So you'll be able to earn yield on your Bitcoin at iTrust Capital. We showed you how they're already offering Ethereum staking within your IRA or the premium custody account at iTrust Capital. But this one just came out today. So for those of you guys that do have some Bitcoin, you're going to be able to get some yield on it as iTrust Capital has partnered up here. Now, this is going to be for accredited investors in the CBAM managed fund strategy, but you will be able to participate in your tax deferred or maybe even your tax-free IRA account. So that's a big deal. Wanted to get them tapped in here as a community resource because your opportunity to front run the institutions is ending. I don't think that folks should be waiting around for, the ETFs to go live so that you can invest your 401k in crypto. I think that you should be taking action on that today. We should not wait for a suit to sell it to us. Go to the folks that are offering it now. So once again, that promo code is going to be Rector9 to receive your $100 funding bonus. Very happy to have them tapped in, and a special thank you to our sponsor, iTrust Capital. Let's go rapid fire with it. How's everybody doing tonight? Thank you for stopping by. Once again, if you haven't already, let's make sure that we have liked this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you are new here. And let's see what the community has to say. Let me adjust that. Here we go. Eric, thank you. What's up, man? Hope you had a great day. What's up with the new acquisition that Ripple made today? Really great news. Yep, you probably saw me break it down, Eric. It is massive. So tomorrow I'm going to be dropping a video focused on it more in depth as we're still kind of researching who this G Treasury, right? Is that the name of the company? Right? It's yeah, G Treasury. So we're still researching right now, G Treasury. And so tomorrow I will have a focused breakdown of what this acquisition is going to mean. But as I showed you guys here tonight, 13,000 member banks fully integrated into Swift, ready for ISO 222, flip of the switch in November. Just another massive acquisition. Joker, thank you. XRP Army, keep up the good work, brother. You bet, my friend. We never... we're not slowing down one bit here. Not slowing down one bit. Dennis, you think it's a coincidence that 100 ETFs are coming and they crash it? I don't think it's a coincidence, Dennis, and that's exactly why we titled it tonight, XRP ETF Manipulation. This is the games they play. And like I said, the worst part about this is it's the poor in the middle class that are getting squeezed out and who are getting distracted and who are unable to take advantage of this, or if they already were in crypto, they're getting fudded out, right? That's the unfortunate part about this situation. SEC on Skeleton Crew, Erober approved tomorrow. Yeah, so a bank that is backed by Peter Thiel was just approved for their bank charter at the OCC. And so that would tell us that the OCC is still approving of bank charter licenses at the OCC during the shutdown. So keep your eyes on, because once, I mean, I can only plug in so much good stuff in one episode, right? Or else the show would just go on too long. But that's another thing and another catalyst to watch out for, which is Ripple getting that bank charter as well. Thank you for mentioning that, right? But yeah, no, as far as the ETFs, they're going to be delayed until the government opens back up, and then they'll start signing off. Yeah, Daniel, thank you so much. Hope you and the fam are doing good. Keep up the good videos, Daniel. We ain't stopping. We ain't slowing down. In fact, we're doubling down. I love moments like this, guys. When everybody's scared, running for the hills. When I see the YouTubers putting out the XRP FUD, I just smile. I told my Discord group, I said, okay, I don't even have to watch this video to know where they're going with this one. Sure enough. I let them expose themselves. The memes make themselves. I'm going to leave it at that. And we'll keep it rolling. We'll keep it positive. Keep the vibes high here tonight. Joker, thank you. Yeah, the SEC has a skeleton crew, but it's unlikely. During the last shutdown, they did not approve ETFs. In 2018, I think was the last big shutdown. Last big shutdown was in 2018. They didn't approve any ETFs or IPOs. So it's very unlikely. Hold strong, hold long. Ooh, Joker, that's it right there. We are holding strong. We are holding long. Absolutely. Added to the XRP long. It's good. AI Cat. XRP Ledger. There you go. 5 spot. Thank you for that. Look at that. Look at that little birdie that he gifted. So this is what I'm saying, guys. I love the memesters. AI Cat. I don't know if it's a token or an NFT. It's not an endorsement. They're not a sponsor, okay? The only sponsor I have is I Trust Capital. I'm not sponsored by anybody else, and definitely not any meme coins. But I like it. I love it. We love to see it. AI Cat, Fuzzy Wudgy Penguin, locking up XRP, burning XRP, bringing on-chain flows, more users. If it's the Fuzzy Wudgy Penguins that brings more people to the XRP ledger, then God bless the Fuzzy Wudgy Penguins. I have no interest in them, but to each their own. AI Cat, thank you for your support. Shout out to the memesters. It's been 1 year since the XRP ledger got memes. XRP Bible. Did you get liquidated, son? Bible, you're out of place calling me son. I see you commenting on Twitter. I think you're out of place calling me son, although you could be older than me, which, sure. But sorry to disappoint you. No, I did not get liquidated. Now, let me be very clear, though. I got lucky as heck. I really did. Because what happened is Coinbase futures closes, the perpetual futures, which is what I was trading, close every Friday for 1 hour from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern. So XRP dropped below $2, and that's when it went all the way down to a dollar, 77 cents on Binance, $1.20 on other exchanges, right? This was all happening while the Coinbase futures market was closed for the 1 hour. They do this every single week on the Coinbase futures, the perpetuals. And this is for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP futures on Coinbase. So I got lucky as heck because my liquidation price was about 233, and they were crushing the market into that close. So it was 2 o'clock, almost 3 p.m. No, that would have been 2 o'clock my time. It closes from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern. And so it closed off at 249. After they slammed it down to 240, it bounced back up to 249, and then it closed off. So I'm looking at the Coinbase futures price on my phone, and it's at 249. And meanwhile, the rest of the markets are open, and this is XR. I'm just watching candle. Like, this thing was just dropping like I've never seen it before. And I told my wife, I was watching this live, and I knew in that moment, I said, I'm probably never going to see a moment like this ever again, where XRP drops this fast, this quick. I had the O face, not in a good way, sitting at my screen, watching it unfold live. And I was crapping my pants because I had a big XRP long. The Coinbase futures had closed off at 249. We dropped below that, well below that. And so what I did is I was able to deposit more margin from my bank account before the close because I was worried. I didn't know what kind of trades or deals I was going to be able to do while the market was shut down. So I added margin from my bank before they closed. And then while the market was shut down, I just said, oh crap, I don't know where XRP is going to go to on this Coinbase perpetual futures order book. Mind you, this order book is different from the spot order book. Okay. So the spot market can be at whatever it's at. The perpetual is going to be at a different price. So I was scared that when it opened back up at 6 p.m. Eastern, that the chart was just going to nuke on me, right? And so I ended up, and this is why I like to be very clear, and I'm always transparent with you guys. I was able to save my position, but I had to add more margin from my bank, and then I actually did sell off some XLM that I had in profit. And then I sold off some HBAR that I held that was actually down at a loss. So I sold off some of those cryptos so that I could add additional margin to my trade. And I brought my liquidation price down to $1.72. So when the Coinbase futures opened back up at 6, it did crash to about 220. But then it immediately bounced back up to like 230, 240, and even back up to like 250. By the time it was like 6 o'clock, the market had already bounced back up. XRP was back up above 230. And so I didn't need to take those extra measures and sell off the XLM and the HBAR that I did. But just to be safe, so that I didn't lose a bigger position that I had in the futures, that's what I had to do. So I like to be honest with you guys, I was not unscathed. I had to sell off some XLM. I had to sell off some HBAR to save it. But I did save, and I did not get liquidated. But there was a lot of luck involved, and I had to sell assets that I didn't want to sell. So I am not perfect. Okay? I got lucky. But yeah, I know a lot of people want to see me fail. I know a lot of people wanted to see me liquidated. It comes with kind of putting yourself out here like this. And that's okay. But I like to have these victories. It's not really even making money. It's just saving positions that I have. just to show folks why I use so little leverage, and to show that my strategy and the way that I trade this is different from like day traders that are doing tight take profit and stop loss trades, very tight margins, day trading. I don't do that. Okay. I'm a swing trader. So I'm swinging margins that are much bigger than day-to-day activity. And that gives me room to breathe and sleep peacefully at night. Okay. But I did get lucky. Does anyone know if Zach has posted his recent price prediction for Solo in the Discord? Good question, Danny. I'll have to go back and review Sologenic. So we just got big news from Solo that their partner, Texture Capital, just got approved by FINRA to list stocks. So they're going to be tokenizing the entire stock market on their platform, and they just got a FINRA approval for that. So that should be accelerating pretty quickly. I still have pretty high targets on Sologenic. Still looking for it to go to at least 6 to 12 XRP per Sologenic was the range, but now XRP's moved. So now I just say we're probably going to go at least $6 to $12 per Sologenic. How that will pair up with XRP, I can't really tell you right now because XRP is so volatile and Sologenic is going to be so volatile as well. But I trade Sologenic to make more XRP. I treat it like the meme coins. So I'm trading Solo and XRP Ledger token so that I can make more XRP. So I don't really look at the dollar pairing so much as I know a lot of people are. And so I'll use that for my analysis. But I'm mostly looking at the Sologenic XRP pair so that I can flip my Solo back into XRP. Because I'm trying to make more XRP, not make more dollars on that trade. Okay. Okay. So I did not get liquidated. The Versatile, what do you consider a decent amount of XRP to hold, like bare minimum to have in your opinion? It's a relative question that I get asked all the time. It's relative to everybody's individual situation. I think that for me, the number that it just quickly comes to mind is it's nice to have 10,000 XRP, right? If you have at least 10,000 XRP, I think that's a nice bag for a lot of new people, a lot of folks who don't have a lot of discretionary income, who don't have considerable investments. A first target of 10,000, I think, is a good place to get to. I felt that way when XRP was at 50 cents and $1. Now here we are at $2 and $3. And so that's got quite a bit more expensive to do. But yeah, I think that everybody should be shooting for enough that's going to make them feel satisfied for the price action that's coming ahead. What do I mean by that? Well, ask yourself what you think XRP is going to. Ask yourself how much you have to invest, and then you can determine how much you should own. You're wasting your time thinking, oh, well, I need to get to 500,000 XRP if you only have $5,000 to your name, right? So the two questions are, what do you think XRP is going to go to, and how much do you have to invest? If you think that XRP is only going to go to $4 or $5, well, it's better than a lot of opportunities in the stock market or maybe what other cryptos will do, but maybe it's not an allocation that you want to go all in on. If you believe that XRP is going to go to above $100 like I do, the equation changes. The variable that I can't give an answer to is how much money do you have to invest? Now, a lot of people see that and this is the reason why I don't like to answer this question is because a lot of people see this and they'll either be discouraged, right? Or feel down on themselves when if you're new here in the game, you just got to keep working with what you got, and more importantly, focus on creating more discretionary income that you can invest, right? Let's not beat ourselves up about our current situation. Let's figure out how we can change it going forward. How can I save? And that's, it's just two functions. One, how do I cut and eliminate spending? And two, how do I make more income? Pro tip, don't spend too much time on the savings. You're not going to save your way out of this crisis. I'm not even talking about investing in XRP. I'm just saying to beat inflation, you don't do it with savings. And you don't do it with a treasury bill that's paying you 4% either, by the way. So I don't spend time on expenses. I only focus on income. Now, that's a generalization. Of course, I focus on expenses and, we got to be responsible, right? But this is why, we don't do it. I only splurge with on my family. I'll take my wife out to a nice date. We have some trips here and there, but we ain't blowing anything. Okay. Now let's continue on here because I see that we got a few more questions that came in. Ricky and Mr. Blicky. I like that. That's a good one. Thank you for all that you do for the community, Zach. Your analogy referring to Swift and Ripple made me laugh. Little scooper into the sandbox. God bless you and your family. Can you share your new DAG price prediction? It's been a while since I've actually, I've been watching DAG and what they've been working on. I wouldn't be able to update you on any price targets right now, other than to say that I did lower my targets from the DAG deep dive that I did. I did a DAG deep dive earlier this year, and I've lowered my price predictions on that, considering overall market sentiment, the conditions, and the fact that DAG still is not getting big. It's not getting additional institutional adoption that I wanted to see. It's not getting ETFs, and there are no digital asset treasury companies for DAG. So for all of those reasons, I've lowered my targets on DAG, which my targets on DAG were 40 to 60 cents. They're less now. I can just tell you that right now, but I'll do a follow-up on DAG. They got their new DEX up and running. They have a few other things that they've been working on. We just need to see more. It's just like so many of these crypto projects, even ones that I'm invested in, I just continued to apply pressure. In the way that I apply pressure is, hey, who's actually using your token? I just ask questions, right? This is all I do for a living is I just go across all these investments, and you got to ask the tough questions. First off, most people don't do any due diligence. Joe Blow TikToker said, buy it. I'm going to throw money. Okay. For those that want to do a little bit of due diligence, though, you got to know where to look. You got to know which questions to ask. And you got to be ready to handle the truth. A lot of people aren't ready to handle the truth. People get so deep into investments that they're blinded by the truth that's staring them in the face. Now, some people say that that's us in the XRP community, and I just refer them to the fundamentals, right? The institutional adoption and the utility that's now getting ready to blossom, right? But I will follow up on DAG, Ricky. I will cover that one here in an upcoming episode. Eric says, do you think they will not release the coins on the 1st and just send it to the moon to have the price they need to start using it? And are they still coming to steal my XRP? Eric, are you talking about those aliens? Yes, of course. Of course they're coming for your XRP, my friend. Yes, the aliens aren't going to use Bitcoin. Way too slow. Not going to use Ethereum. They need to take it quantum. They need to take it interdimensional, intergalactic. So Ripple stayed consistent with the escrow release, and I was actually going to put out a video on this. Because I'm finding that I need to go back to the basics for all the new people here. Like on a regular basis, we're so, in deep on this, speaking in kind of a more advanced way on a lot of these topics and a lot of these conversations and these partnerships that go back years, and we've bring it all together. And so we're kind of further along, but we're still pulling up new people onto the train with us. And so to catch them up to speed, I find myself like saving in my notes a list of videos that I need to go back to make that are just basic. And also to understand like where the escrow started out and how Ripple handled that to how they're handling it right now and why that's going to drive supply shock on XRP. They've only been divvying up the XRP to their institutional partners since 2019. Despite all the doofus morons that say Ripple's dumping on you, well, they haven't sold to any retail. They haven't sold programmatically to exchanges since 2019. So it's not possible for them to dump on us when they're selling to an institution. But the doofus morons don't get that, right? And they just want to FUD XRP. So recently, over the past couple years, Ripple's only been releasing about 200 to 300 million XRP, and they returned 700 to 800 million back to the escrow. Now, it's a great question, Eric, and this is the big variable that I don't have an answer for. I mean, I could give you a speculation on it, but there's nothing I could add because it's just Ripple's full control. Now, I will say this, as I always say when we bring up this topic, what is Ripple incentivized to do? They're incentivized to see XRP go to a much higher price, the price that, as you said, the price that they need it at, and then stabilize from there with organic, more linear growth from that point. But they're incentivized to see XRP at a higher price. And so it would go against that to dump XRP on retail exchanges. But it would work in favor to distribute XRP strictly and exclusively to institutional partners that are never going to release it for centralized exchanges to pick up and by extension for retail to pick up. This is when we get into a conversation of how much XRP is available on public retail exchanges and how much XRP is in the hands of retail and how much XRP is actually circulating. And it's not the number that you see on CoinMarketCap that's just shy of 60 billion. It's far less. Far less. Yeah. But that's a really good question. The aliens are coming for your XRP. I think that they're going to stay consistent. The one thing that I'm watching is if that picks up when the ETFs go live. That's where we could see that flow of XRP out of the escrow maybe ramp up if the ETFs are driving that demand for, billions of XRP, which is going to happen, by the way. One thing that I forgot to share, I'm going to pull this up right now because I forgot to share it with you guys the other day. Give me 1 second here. This is from the CME. And I had saved this in my bookmark. I just never did end up covering it. But I'm going to go back to it right now. It's very important for everybody to understand the records that are being set right here. Q3 saw unprecedented volume, record large open interest holders, and the launch of new options on Solana and XRP futures. Now what you see right here is 901 billion in total futures and options volume, 31 billion in futures and options open interest. That's average daily open interest, by the way. And then 312 billion in Ethereum futures volume, 30 billion in Solana futures volume, and 22 billion in XRP futures volume. That's $22 billion worth, I should clarify. And that is a record at the CME. So we are still setting records. And this is in Q3, where we saw $22.6 billion worth of volume on the XRP futures. Now, what this tells us is that most likely when the XRP ETFs go live, we're going to be looking at billions of volume. Now, volume is not the same as inflows. But to have volume, you have to have the inflows come in first. And then you get the outflows, the inflows and the outflows together make up that volume. So the fact that we saw 22 billion of futures volume for XRP at the CME, new record, does that mean that we're going to get 22 billion of inflows first month or first quarter? No. It means that you're probably going to get the equivalent of that, though, in trading, which means you're getting a portion of that coming in through inflows. And this, to me, aligns with that 5 to 10 billion of inflows first month that we've been looking at. And I've shown you guys the conservative multiplier on that, which is a 100x. 100 times the 5 billion of inflows is going to add 500 billion to XRP's market cap. In that case, I think you're over $9-10. I think you're, about $9-10. And if we go to $1 trillion market cap, which would be 10 billion of inflows times a 100 times multiplier, 100x multiplier, that would be $1 trillion added to XRP's market cap, which would take us to about $17 to $20 XRP. So XRP's down. Zach, how do you still have so much conviction? As I said, 2 + 2 still equals 4. In this example, 5 to 10 billion times a 100x multiplier still equals 500 to $1 trillion, 500 billion to $1 trillion of market cap growth for XRP. So I was not a math whiz, but I can still do that equation. Right? And mind you, that's a conservative assumption on the inflows and a conservative assumption on the multiplier. I'll let you guys get more bullish with those calculations, and you can throw on 2, 3, 4, 500. In the month of November 2024, we tracked it. It was an 883. I'll repeat, an 883x multiplier in the month of November 2024 after the historical Trump victory election. Times 5 to 10 billion of inflows times 800. Have yourself a little bit of fun with that math. Okay? I like to be conservative because if I make a wrong prediction, the pitchforks and the torches come out and they want to come get me. And like I said, if the government stays shut down for another few months, don't get mad at me, bro. Don't get mad at me. I'm not the one that's holding up this vote, okay? I'm not holding this thing up. I appreciate it. It looks like the chat's staying lit tonight. We're having some fun. That's what we're here to do. Drop facts, have a little bit of fun. How do I feel about RSR? Haven't done a deep dive joker. I know a lot of people have been into it for a while. I don't like these coins, though, that have been around for a while and still don't have institutional adoption, right? RSR, I mean, goodness gracious, this sucker's been around forever, you know? But then out of the blue, you get coins like Zcash that just go ridiculous, right? So reserve rights is at a 378 million market cap. So it's just outside of the threshold of the low cap gems that the pump groups like to pump. Because I was going to say, if it was a little bit lower, you might be able to get some of these sellout influencers to start shilling it and pump it up to their pump group. But it's a little bit bigger than they like to move on. What's up with the supply, though? 100 billion total supply, circulating supplies 60 billion. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at it on RSR. It's just one of those things where if it's not getting ETFs, if we don't have digital asset treasury companies, and we don't have institutional adoption, you're relying on retail to pump it up. The good news with coins like this that are this small with only 300 million in market cap is that retail can move it. If you and 1,000 buddies, or if you guys throw more money at it, even less of your friends decide to move in on it, it can move. But on projects like this, I've lowered my targets. I'm saying that without looking at RSR. I'd have to do a full deep dive on it. Yeah. Fuzzy Wuzzy Penguins, no speculation, hard data. That's right, Travis. I don't know what the Fuzzy Wuzzy Penguins are trading at these days. Damien, Citroni, thank you. Hey, Zach, love all the crap you put out on YouTube. Do you have stats on the first 24 hours for other spot ETFs when they went live? I don't have stats on the first 24 hours, but I do have stats on the first couple weeks. And it was a big sell-off for Bitcoin. It was a big sell-off for Ethereum too. It was a 20% drawdown for Bitcoin, and it was a 40% drawdown for Ethereum, which is why I've been trying to warn everybody about the buy the rumor, sell the news event that'll play out with the ETFs going live, where XRP will probably run up $5 to $7 before the ETFs go live. ETFs go live, everybody's excited, but then we get that buy the rumor, sell the news, and then people will get all worked up. What, you said ETFs were going to pump us, we're moving back down. And I'll say, no, you weren't paying attention. We warned that it was going to be a 20 to 40% pullback, maybe less. Maybe less. Maybe we only get a 5 or a 10% pullback for XRP. But we did get a buy the rumor, sell the news on both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I've been warning that. That's not the clickbait hopium that people want to hear, but it's how you prepare. There's a difference between real analysis and throwing darts blind, right? But yeah, that's a good question. Good question. I'll put out another video. I'm gonna, it's a great point. I'm gonna write a note real quick. Once again, doesn't bring me views. Not what people want to hear. Putting out a video talking about a buy the rumor, sell the news, and XRP not going to $10,000 this month. People don't like to hear that. But we'll put it on record again. I'll do another video talking about that because I think a lot of new people need to hear that. Not enough people are hearing that. They're hearing too much. They're watching my videos where we talk about 5 to 10 billion inflows coming in, XRP going 17 to $20, base case of 20 to $30 next year. But then they miss the part where I explain the buy the rumor, sell the news. I think that'll be a great buying opportunity. After the ETFs go live and you get a little 10, 20% drawdown, it was one of the best times to buy Bitcoin. You could have bought Bitcoin at 38,000 to 40,000 on that drawdown. Went right on up to 49,000 the day it went live. Boom, topped out, came down to 38,500. And then it doubled up over the next 2 months. And in March of 2024, Bitcoin was at 74,000, new all-time high. It went past the high that it went to the day the ETFs went live. So you can take advantage of this buying opportunity, which is going to be better than that buying opportunity, but that will be another buying opportunity when that happens. And my OG community members here are going to be coming back to tell me, hey, Zach, yep, we're buying this dip right now. We're buying this pullback. It'll be XRP runs up to $7. What would a 10% pullback would be? What would that be? 70 cents? All right. So you get a pullback of 70 cents to $1.40. Right? That's nothing. That's going to be a great buying opportunity. And it could be, once again, it could actually be more towards the Ethereum spectrum of a buy the rumor, sell the news. Ethereum was 40%. Bitcoin was 20%. So you might want to actually look, 20 to 40% range. But still, you're talking about XRP going up to $7, selling back off to 5. Everybody paying, oh my gosh, this is the end. XRP bull runs over. The TA bros will be pulling up fractals. I make fun of the TA guys, but I like to do some TA myself. But I keep it very simple and I, just do my deal. But I kind of laugh, just because of what I mentioned earlier. You have guys that are showing you historical fractals that, sure, they could repeat if we were in the same reality, but we're in a drastically different reality. And specifically for XRP, like, if you want to be bearish on Bitcoin, cheers. Maybe I should take I haven't even taken a drink tonight, huh? I'm rooting for Bitcoin because I know it's good for our space. I'm rooting for Ethereum. I'm rooting for Binance. I'm rooting for Fuzzy Wuzzy Penguins. Rooting for it all. But I don't have conviction like I do on these assets compared to XRP. But yeah, I mean, if you want to sell off half your Bitcoin, you want to sell off half your ETH, I would even say, though, that I think Ethereum's still going to go set a new all-time high. I mean, the ROI on that's nothing, but it's something, I guess. A good opportunity if you've held Ethereum for a while to get some exit liquidity. Solana, it continues to just be way behind in performance. Let me go to the XRP. We haven't even looked at XRP price today. Forgot to show you guys the charts because we're so focused on the fundamentals. That's, something to consider. Down to 228 on the XRP chart. I told you guys I had my order set at 225. Did all of you guys front run me today? This is why I don't share my targets publicly with you guys, because you guys front run me. This is what I get for being transparent with you guys. I say my buy order's at 225. I put it out in a video. I had already told my Discord group earlier, but I put it out in a public video. I put it out on a tweet, and then you guys front run me at 228. This is what happens. Now, we shot back up real quick to 240. Here we are at 235. And I'm just wondering, what is everybody freaking out about, right? We get this pullback right here, and it did break down below these levels. But as I've been explaining, you did not have a real market below $2 XRP. The only orders that were being filled were limit orders that were already sitting on the order book. And then there was like a handful of people that told me they were able to get market buys through at like $1.80 and $1.90. But most people told me that they tried putting in orders under $2 and they didn't get filled till above $2. Some folks said $2.20, $2.30. So this wasn't real, right? And when you zoom out, let me go back out here to our daily chart so you can see. I have to adjust our percentage since the election. Let's move this down. And now we're only up 375% since the election. But you're just looking at this level right here, right? At 220. Got this little area down here. And this is why I'm front running this level at 225. I got my order placed. 220 to 230 was a range that we traded in here for a while back through really March all the way into June. And then remember, we did that final pullback in June down to $1.90 before we blasted off to 366 the next month in July. In 1 month, we went from $1.90 to 360. Now here we are at 235 again, and we're about to blast off $6-7. Right on out of here. Now, we could chop sideways for another month if the government stays shut down. Right? That's the only variable that's really put a wrench in our plans. But the reason why I wanted to come back to the charts was to just show you guys Solana, because I think a lot of people need to understand this and put it into proper context and perspective. Yeah, this is just terrible. It really is terrible. When you look at Solana right here, right before the election, it was at $154. So Solana right now is only up 20% since the election. And so, this is why I say, I get new people are frustrated because if you bought in the last year, XRP is coming down, you're down on your investment. But it's an opportunity to dollar cost average. I mean, you fundamentally should not be able to buy $2.30 XRP right now. That's well below the fundamental value. So take advantage of that opportunity. But we zoom out, and if you've been in crypto for longer than a year and you were in before this election, you could have bought all of these assets, XRP, Solana, Bitcoin, all of them. And from the election to now, Solana is only up 20%. Now BNB took off, and a lot of people got upset, right? Because they're saying BNB pumped up. It's outperforming XRP in the past few months, right? Pumping up, doing nice. That's great. Hopefully you got your exit liquidity. Because right now it's only up 109% since the election. The full swing, if you sold the top here, was 150%. Now we go back to XRP, and you're up 375%. Now I know what some folks are saying. Zach, shut up. Just stop. Shut up with the election. I'm tired of hearing it. Well, let's go from another snapshot, another period in time. Hypothetically speaking, if you bought the low on BNB and rode it up to where we're at right now, the low of the bear market, hypothetically speaking, if you bought $180 BNB and rode it up to where we're up right now, 525%. If you bought the low on XRP, well, you would have been up 900%. We're back down. You're still up 726%. So it's not just from the election to now. Hypothetically, if you bought the bottom, and really this just gives context to everybody who's upset with price action, is you would have been better off buying XRP than BNB, Solana. Solana is one example, though, I will say. Shout out to Solana and the VC pump gang behind it. If you would have bought Solana, which dumped extremely hard during the bear market, that's the risk. And here's the thing. This is a hypothetical. Did anybody have the you-know-what to buy Solana at, what was it, $8? Right? Because this was after Solana had dumped 97%. Solana's dumped 97%. Did you have the conviction to buy Solana? Right? That's a tremendous breakdown. Now, if you did, my hat's off to you, because currently you would be up 21x, 2,100%. So I'm going to check the comments right now. Did anybody buy Solana under $10? And when you guys look in the comments and you see that nobody did, you'll see why, even when I give the benefit of the doubt to some of these projects, it's just not reality. It's like all the people that want to say, oh, XRP's down from its 2018 high in the last, what is that, 7 years? It's been 7 years and we're below our all-time high. Well, who's that relevant to? That's only relevant if you bought $3.80 XRP in 2018, because then you would be underwater. But I'm here to tell you that nobody did buy $3.80 XRP, because it only went to 380 on the Korean exchanges before they shut them down with the kimchi premium. Just like you didn't have a real order book in a real market when XRP dumped below $2 during the liquidation event, you didn't have a real market of buyers and sellers at 380 in January of 2018. But people don't understand this. By the way, this is not me. This is from David Schwartz. Let me see if I can. What did David say was the 2018 all-time high? I'm going to see if I can find this post. Because David said that he thought that the all-time high was actually only like 340 or something like that. I got to go back and find this comment. I'll go find it in another video, and I'll bring it up later. But the point being, even David Schwartz said that 380 in January wasn't a real market. And so if anybody did hypothetically buy the top in January of 2018 above $3, they most likely dollar cost average down below, making the whole point about, oh my gosh, it's, you know, down from its 2018 high irrelevant to anybody who stayed the course with XRP and dollar cost averaged in lower, because you had 7 years to buy XRP under 50 cents from there. Now, if somebody bought above $3 and sold above $3, that was a bad trade, right? And then if they decided not to get back into XRP when it was under 50 cents for the past 6 years, that was a missed opportunity. But I only break this down, not, you know, most of you guys listening to me know this, but I break this down for the new people here that need to be reminded and need to understand this stuff, because these are all of the same FUD points that have been circulating since 2018. It's just every week they come up with something new. And at the end of the day, the only thing that was going to shut up the haters and the XRP FUDsters was price action. And now that we're outperforming everybody, everybody hates me saying that we're the best asset since the election. Even though I think it's one of the most important times to measure from, because it's when a new reality set in. So let's get back to it. Crypto Cowboy, good to see you, brother. Zach, good sir. Haters will hate and FUDsters will FUD. Thank you for everything that you do for us. My pleasure, my friend. It's funny. I watch these guys come and go. They left during the bear market. They go play around. They go into hiding. Market starts to heat back up. Here they are shilling again. You know, it's just like the weather. It comes and goes. Yep. But we've stayed the course, and we always will every single day for you guys. Thank you for your support. King Moore's XRP. Zach, the way gold is raising, do you think that the reverse carry trade will happen? Well, gold is sending a signal, but in relation to the reverse carry trade, you're mostly just going to be looking at the Japanese yen versus the US dollar and what the Bank of Japan does at the end of the month. It is anticipated that they are going to raise rates, which is going to make the carry trade less favorable, less appealing. And so that will continue to unwind the Japan carry trade. Yes. Yes. Now, how much does gold relate? I would say that most institutions, you know, there was some that were shorting gold, but really it's silver. Silver is disrupting it, and it's causing margin calls for the banks that were shorting it, right? Hedge funds and others that were shorting it. But, you know, there's a little bit of a correlation there, but mostly what we're watching now is Japanese yen versus the dollar. And we're watching the rate decision over there. That's where that reverse carry trade unwind accelerates. Dennis, thank you. Ripple has a way to change the escrow and sell to important entities just by using public keys feature. Likely requires board approval. Well, yeah, and I think that, you know, after we get the Clarity Act and you have full clarity, none of these institutions will have to worry about crypto at all, right? They'll just be either, you know, buying and holding crypto themselves, or they'll partner up with companies like Ripple so Ripple can handle custody. Ripple can also provide the prime brokerage service to help them acquire and trade, right? Buy and sell. And so they're either going to do it in-house or they're going to partner up with somebody like Ripple. And from there, they'll be able to acquire freely. They won't have to worry about getting themselves involved in a securities transaction that the SEC is going to scrutinize. T. Scott, thank you for the super chat. The message has been redacted, so I do not know what you were trying to say, but I appreciate you for dropping that in there. Okay, I want to give 5 more minutes for anybody else that has rapid fire Q&A. Let's go. Drop your comments and questions down below. I'm going to just do 5 more minutes. Thank you, everybody. If you haven't already, let's like this video. Help us out by sharing out some of our other content. Okay, don't send my live show to your friends or family, loved ones, or colleagues that aren't really this deep into it, right? The new people need my 60-second shorts. They need our other videos. So send those ones to them, okay? But help us out by liking this video. Help us out by sharing some of that other content, and all of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. Let's go rapid fire, 5 minutes. Reported Web3 videos. Yep, watch out for the scams. Yeah, government dropping capital gains. There hasn't been any new movement. I know 50% of the IRS is furloughed right now. Yeah, we're still waiting to see. Am I bullish on Flare? Yes. They just raised the FXRP mint cap by 15 million today. I think that it was already filled. I don't think that there's any lots available left. I didn't mint any more FXRP today. I'm not going to mint any more until I decide what I'm going to do with my FXRP. But yes, I'm still bullish on it. Yep. Yep, John. How's your wrapped XRP with Flare? And do you think that Flare can get to $1 or more in the next year or two? John, that's a great question. It's a great question. I don't think it can get to $1, 10 to 20 cents. Okay. 10 to 20 cents for Flare is where I could see it going to, by the end of this year. Maybe by next year, I can adjust those targets. But for now, I'm still holding to my 10 to 20 cent targets on Flare. Okay. I'm still bullish on Flare. I don't own that big of a position in it. And like I said, I still need to deploy my FXRP somewhere in the Flare ecosystem to earn yield. And when I do, I will let you guys know where I'm getting that at. Yeah. Thoughts on Coinbase wallet? Yeah, I don't like Coinbase. I use Coinbase, but I don't like them. I would rather use Caleb and Brown institutional grade custody. I would rather use Uphold Vault. Coinbase wallet's fine, but it's not my go-to. I only use Coinbase now for futures trading. Danny, thank you. What's going to happen with the government shutdown in the XRP ETFs? I do not believe that they will be going live during the shutdown. I think that we need to wait for the shutdown to end. In the 2018 government shutdown, which lasted about 35 days, no IPOs were approved and no ETFs were approved. So going off of that historical precedent, I would say we are not going to get approval while the government is shut down. Okay? But when we do open back up, it's going to be a signing spree at the SEC. Salvador Ramirez, thank you for the 10 spot. Josh Pell, and by the way, guys, it's like the same FUD that I saw with the case. People, it's the same people that were telling me that the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit was going to go all the way to the Supreme Court and it was going to take till next year, which it could have gone there, right? To the Supreme Court, right? It could have gone that far. But we said the odds weren't likely based off of the case and the facts around it. And it's the same people now telling me that the government shutdown is going to last till next year. Well, if it does, take advantage of that opportunity, right? Could we chop sideways for a couple months if the government stays shut down for a couple months? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? Are we going to be crying or are we going to be buying? Let me know, chat. Right? If we get consolidation for 2 more months, that's 2 more months that you get to buy XRP below its fundamental value. It's just that simple. But it's the same folks that were telling me that the case, we knew the appeal had nothing to stand on, and that their case at that point was so weak, they'd lost on all the important points. They had nothing really to go on. And so we were saying, guys, the appeal is going to end. And people are mad at me. Right? This case is going to go on forever. It's going to go till next year. This case is never going to end. And we said, well, eventually it will end. Here's the next deadline. Here's the next deadline. I'm tired of the deadlines. Zach, shut up. Zach, shut up. Eventually the case ended. Right? And now we're set free. And many people missed out on generational wealth buying opportunities because they were running with an assumption that the case was just going to go on forever, indefinitely. Same people who are not going to take advantage of this shutdown and the buying opportunity that has presented itself, which I think we'll look back and even if we dip down to $2, I think a lot of people are going to get left behind because they're waiting for us to go back below $2, and they don't realize the order book already got cleared out. The leverage already got cleared out. There's nothing down there. Now, if World War III pops off again, sure. If the aliens arrive, sure. If we get a banking crisis 3.0, sure. Right? There are still a couple cards that we could pull that would be black swan events and would lead to big pullbacks. But the fact that we wiped out all the leverage and we wiped out all of the order books means that we're starting fresh right now. And there's no TA to look at, really below that $2 level on that Friday wick. That Friday wick below $2 was a figment of our imagination to the extent that you were able to get an order to actually go through at that time. If you weren't able to buy XRP under $2, it might as well have just been a figment of your imagination. It was a bad dream. Right? And so I know what we're going to be doing. We're going to be taking advantage of that opportunity to load up. And as soon as that government does open back up, it's party on. Generational life-changing amount of XRP if held for 5 years. Well, generational wealth to me is 10 million plus. But I mean, you could have a net worth that's much less than that and be able to pass on a family property, be able to pass on a few properties, be able to pass on a portfolio and a nest egg that's, multiple 7 figures. But to me, the generational wealth number is 10 million plus. 10 million plus. So whatever the math would be on that, right? $100 XRP times however much XRP that would be to get to 10 million. Because that's where I think XRP is going in 5 years, is $100 at least. At least. And remember that I just keep it extra conservative so I don't get in trouble. I'm worried about people's feelings out here, If I say we're going to $100 or $1,000, somebody might get offended. We don't want to do that. You know how much we like to be politically correct over here. Appreciate everything you do. Zach, thank you. Joker, appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. Mrs. Claus, good to see you. Hi, Zach in the community, just jumping on, but I wanted to let you know, if you didn't already, over 2,000 people. Okay, well, I'm not going to read off that comment because that could get me in trouble. But Mrs. Claus, I wanted to say, I don't believe that headline. I think that headline was put out as FUD. I don't believe it. Now, I know that there was that popular Ukrainian investor and trader. He was trading for the Ukrainian military and government, which is like saying that they were handling investments for the mafia. When you're handling investments for those types of characters, things can go wrong. I'll just leave it at that. But I think that headline, that 2,000 people, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Now, sure, maybe some did. And let me echo the comment and the point that you are getting across, Mrs. Claus, because it is very important. Please let everyone know that everything will be okay, to hang in there. I'll add on to that and say that it's just money. It's just money. We can make it back. And if anything, every time I've taken a big loss in my life, you use that to build back stronger, right? You use that to learn, to grow. And ultimately, some of your biggest losses, as long as you don't let them be a failure by quitting, you get stronger, and that's what propels you into your next big victory. And so that's why we remain unfazed by short-term losses. We take an L here and there. We put out a timeline. It blows up. It's not a big deal because we use little to no leverage. Once again, I own my XRP and all my other cryptos without any leverage. I only have a small portion of my trading bag that I use to trade XRP meme coins, futures, and other short-term swing trades, right? So it is the people that get over-leveraged and ahead of themselves. Trading for shady characters never helps either. But I think that it is an important point that you made, that we have to hang in there together. Mrs. Claus comes back in. She says, "Oh, I pray it isn't true. I saw it on a few different sites. Thanks for letting me know. Amen." Yeah, and I think that we see this all the time in the news. When it's time to sell fear, they shove it down your throat, right? And that's why I made it a focus to come in over the last week, not to deliver hopium, not to deliver clickbait, not to tell you necessarily what you want to hear, because we've acknowledged that there is still the possibility that we go down some more. We've acknowledged that the margin call is not over. There still is a debt, currency, and liquidity crisis that needs to be solved. There's not just an issue in the private credit. There's not just an issue in the small and regional banks. There's systemic problems that would break and blow up the whole system. But despite all that, I made it a point to show up with as much confidence as I did, backing it all with fundamentals to show you guys my conviction level, to show you that I'm not going anywhere. I told you guys I bought the dip at 242. I told you I have an order set at 225 to show you I'm not going anywhere. I'm adding to my positions. I'm going long when everybody else is scared to use futures, which we probably shouldn't be using futures. It's how you get yourself in trouble. Many good men have fallen to leverage liquor and ladies, so you don't want that to be you. But I come out here in the past week since the liquidation event, we'll come up on the 1 week anniversary of it tomorrow, to show you guys how unfazed I am by this. We've been here before. Now, we've never seen a liquidation event like the one we saw. That had me on the seat of my edge of my seat. Maybe I had to go change my drawers. Not actually, but we caught a sweat in the office that day. We caught a little sweat. But at the end of the day, we've made fundamental investments. We go outside, we touch grass. We go hang out with friends and families and loved ones, and we remind ourselves that there's more to life than just making money. But goodness gracious, if our strategy hasn't worked out for making a lot of money, and our self-directed investments are outperforming. In fact, I have a stat that I'm going to share probably in an update tomorrow about how registered investment advisors are being outperformed by the self-directed. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But folks, we're not going anywhere. We've been doubling down, tripling down. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I've been adding to my XRP long. I started in it at 340, brought my average all the way down to 294. Sold off that position before the liquidation event on the weekend of September 20th, my birthday. Was able to save my bag. I sold it off at 308, reaccumulated and brought my average back down to 282. Saved myself from the liquidation event of last week. Bought the dip, lowered my average down to 254. Set another order yesterday for 225. A lot of traders would say that I'm rage trading, which is where you're in a losing trade and you just keep throwing money at it, right? There might be some rage behind it. I found that at times it's appropriate to get a little worked up. And I don't get worked up other than it's so unfortunate and sad to see the average retail investor getting shaken out of their bags. That's what upsets me. Not a comment saying, Zach, you suck. Not, a trade being down a little bit. It's knowing that the average person who has an opportunity to acquire a life-changing or even a generational wealth bag of XRP is not doing so because they're getting fudded out by whatever it is. That's what upsets me. But I'm going to take this last comment right here just to say that we are going to be covering the G Treasury acquisition tomorrow. I already covered it tonight, Michael. It is massive. 13,000 member banks, more than Swift. But we're going to wrap up the live show here tonight, and I'm going to be doing a specific video on this acquisition and everything that it entails and what this means for Ripple and XRP tomorrow. So make sure you guys have subscribed. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our updates. We will be back here tomorrow. We are going to be back every single day. Once in a while, I take a day off, but that's few and far between. Because we're not going anywhere. We have the greatest transfer of wealth in world history to take advantage of, and we are absolutely going to maximize this opportunity together. So if you appreciate what we're doing, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, help us out by tapping it or smacking it. Really do help. That really does help when you do so. And then all of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. Okay? Thank you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning. God bless you all.